exciting. We are so honored today because today we have Dr. Jani Valdivia. Am I saying that right? Valdivia or Valdivia? I'm sure you've had this question all the time. I mean, it's amazing that your last name has the word dive in it, by the way. I mean, it sounds like a stage name.
No, it's Valdivia.
It is Valdivia. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the first person who's asked that before. So Dr. Valdivia is an outstandingly accomplished individual. He is a doctor. He's a neurosurgeon. In fact, he just came out of surgery right now to talk to us. This is such an honor. He is from Peru and is a national record holder in freediving in Peru, and he is passionate about research and the area of the brain and freediving, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So honored to have you here. Thank you so much, Dr. Valdivia, for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm just honored to be here, and please call me Jani.
Jani, okay, absolutely, I will. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so how's your day going?
Everything is good. I came back recently from the competition and just getting back into things and straight to working long hours and just doing what I love: surgeries, clinic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about some of the areas of research that you've been involved in?
Well, I've done more research in what I do in neurosurgery than in freediving. In freediving, I've been involved in only so far. The papers that have been published are 2 peer-reviewed papers and 3 poster presentations on diving conventions. But the one that I really like the most is the imaging of the brain while a diver is holding his breath on dry. Using a functional MRI.
That's what I find really interesting. Yes.
Yeah, that was really mind blowing for me. That was really interesting. So,
what were the findings?
Yeah. So the findings were consistent with changes on brain activation between, contrasting between baseline and dry apnea, where different parts of your brain activate more in that specific elite freediver that was holding his breath for about 5 to 6 minutes on the MRI. And the areas that were activating were, for example, the occipital areas that have to do with vision or imaginary, the limbic system that has to do with emotions. There were less activation on the motor areas because you're obviously immobile on the MRI. So that tells me that the brain is working in a different way in an elite freediver on breath hold than baseline. So
that really, really interesting. And did you look at were you looking at alpha waves and beta theta in that particular study?
Yes. I don't know if I'm able to share the slides with you here, but there were some changes on alpha and delta waves. Let me see if I can do that. But honestly, the most interesting finding is the change in the functional MRI. So your brain is just different.
That your brain is different, yeah.
It's working in a different way. Am I able to share screen here?
I think that, and if you can't do it here, then send me the slides after, and I'll make sure to post them and put them in the
Perfect.
And also link out to them, because I think that's really important for people to see, because I know a lot of individuals who are listening to this podcast are really excited about the evidence that supports the positive adaptations of breath holding in general, whether it come from free diving or performing breath work on land, and how the body adapts physiologically. But now your focus is the brain and looking at the positive adaptations in the brain. And so I think that's really fascinating. Yeah. But you did mention that this was in a conditioned free diver. And were you comparing it to a control who was not a conditioned, experienced free diver?
Well, I came late into that study, and the study was designed by the Coma Science Group, and they did a good job by comparing the same freediver being the control and the subject. So there were decrease in delta waves on apnea, and there were increase in alpha waves on apnea. And as I said, activation of the visual cortex, calcarine cortex, limbic system, etc. So they compare the same diver on, breathing and then on apnea. So I think that was a good design for this.
It's really interesting. And so they saw the increase in alpha waves during the breath hold.
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Correct.
And do you think, I know that this wasn't looked at in the study, but do you think that there are implications for improving or increasing alpha waves even at the resting state from conditioning? And maybe that's hard to speculate from a study like this, but I've heard of many freedivers using freediving or even using breath holding as a form of therapy, and also as something that helps them concentrate even when they're not holding their breath. And I think a lot of them are wondering, well, why is that? Anecdotally, I know that I'm experiencing that, but why is this consistent breath work over time helping me to be more focused in my daily life? Am I generating more alpha waves at a resting state, even not within a breath hold? What are your opinions on that?
I don't like to speculate, although if you ask me for my opinion, which is not scientifically based, I believe that using freediving in the future, it will be probably considered a form of therapy, because I haven't found something so profound that brings me to the here and now as freediving does, and brings me to the present, and it's a type of biofeedback, because freediving, I believe, is not the deeper you go, the better it is. It's just the deeper you go each time, it means that you are better physically and mentally. So it's a type of biofeedback to your mind and your thought control. And the more you surrender to the present moment, whatever shape it may take, as probably perhaps as off target as it may sound, it's better for your diving. So it's very mindful and mindless at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate place to be in your meditation, right? Mindful and mindless, all at the same time. Ultimately that is the state of the alpha wave, right? Being extremely productive, but extremely relaxed all at the same time. And how do you achieve that? And I'm assuming that when you're experiencing that extreme, that extreme mindfulness and mindlessness, you have that high level of alpha wave, which you did see in that study. So that's not speculation, right? That's in that very well designed study.
Yeah.
But why else do you think you're experiencing that outside of the biofeedback, of course, in real time, and also the increase in alpha waves?
Well, freediving has a scientific part and a mystical part, and the mystical part is it's very important, meaning you don't think your dive, you feel your dive. It's like that say by, I don't know who said that, being has to be felt, not thought, right? So if you are immersed in the present moment and forget about past, future, or sense of time or sense of target, then the dive not only becomes more enjoyable, but you reach your target more easily, right? So I feel like there's nothing as of now that gives me that but freediving.
It's so incredible. And when did you first start freediving?
I took my first class 6.5 years ago at Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas with Vertical Blue, and that same I was faculty of neurosurgery at the University of Michigan then, and that class I decided to move to Florida to continue just freediving. So that changed my life, going from being an academician to being in Florida, doing also working, but also being a freediver. So yeah, it's a profound change, and I feel like whoever is listening, if they take up freediving the right way, taking a certified class, it may change your life. It may change your life forever.
That's what I keep hearing time and time again. It's really, really incredible. And you still work in academia at the university in Tampa?
I don't do academia anymore. I do private practice. I do academia doing virtual teaching to residents online or other faculty or neurosurgeons abroad or mission trips. But I don't do classic academia as I used to do before.
But you spent many years at the University of Michigan?
I was faculty there. I was assistant professor and at the university and chief of neurosurgery at the VA. And before that, I was chief resident at the University of Arizona. So yeah, I was in it.
Yeah,
I was in. I loved it. And
you miss it, yeah.
I miss teaching residents and fellows and publishing and doing research. It's just a different way of doing medicine.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a part of your life. It's a phase.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that you're going to carry with you forever, and you'll always have that, very, very scientific mind, and apply that to everything that you do. Really, really incredible. Well, you're also a member of AIDA, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and that is an organization that helps individuals develop their apnea for freediving safely. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it's the director of the medical committee is Dr. Oleg Melikov, and he directs a group of individuals that have scientific expertise to give opinions about the matter. And I'm just lucky to be there, honestly. I'm just lucky to be in that committee to learn a lot and contribute some. But yeah, the purpose of AIDA, I believe, is to make the sport safe, healthy, and provide guidelines for the development of the sport in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what would you say if someone's starting freediving? What are the top safety protocols to follow when you're first starting to practice your your apneas? Maybe some people are starting just dry land, static apneas. Are there certain training protocols through the organization that help to develop that, those apneas safely?
Yeah. So most important thing I could say, and you can take home from this podcast, is never freedive alone. Never do it alone, even if you're holding your breath on your bathtub or ideally not even on dry at home. Always look for a certified instructor to teach you and take a class, a proper class. Know your limits. If you are of certain age or have some comorbidities or past medical history, past surgical history, consult your physician in person rather than go to, let's say, a forum or ask questions. Try to see someone in person where you are. And another thing I learned is if you're going to hold your breath at home, try to do it while someone is at home as well with you, so they know you're doing that. It's not a risk-free practice, even if you are not using facial gear. And if you're using facial gear, it can be life-threatening. So that's something to take home too.
Absolutely. And are you speaking of a certain duration of a breath hold that becomes, that becomes risky, when a person gets to, past 60 seconds or past 2 minutes, or, where's the threshold where you see the, like extreme risks start to come into the equation?
The threshold, it depends on the individual, and it depends on the individual's cardiopulmonary condition. And if you are new to this, you haven't taken a class, and you're just trying to hold your breath at home, and you're not sure if you have an occult cardiac issue, pulmonary issue, whatever, be very careful. Be very careful, because occult medical conditions can come up when you start in this discipline.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's really interesting, because there are many who have, chronic disease who go into breath work or even, breath holding, and use that instead of traditional exercise, for, whether it's for their brain therapeutically or their body therapeutically, because there are many with chronic disease who aren't able to move in a traditional way. And so whether it be freediving, where they're using buoyancy and they're using the combination of the breath work and the exercise in the water, or they're doing, they're walking and doing very light, 4-second breath holds, nothing like a freediver would do, several minutes. They find it to be very, very therapeutic and a way of conditioning their circulatory system and cardiovascular system in like a non-traditional way that, a person who can't, who may have chronic disease and can't traditionally train, with running or sprinting or traditional weight training, they like that there is that option where they can achieve positive benefits. But there are many who ask the question, where is the line between, positive adaptation and maladaptation? With the even with some of the, especially with the longer breath holds, with that, of course, with freedivers, you have, how long did you have to hold your breath to, get that national record in Peru? Several minutes.
My dive was actually modest compared to other athletes. I just did 69 meters on both bifins and monofin, and it was about a little over 2 minutes.
Very, very impressive. Still.
I took home the fact that I could actually be present and disconnect from the daily mind chatter. That's my real accomplishment for myself. And I feel like when you do these competitions, you compete with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And a question that I wanted to ask you, and I know that because you are very grounded in the science and you may have not done research in this area, so I am asking for an opinion on this one, if you're comfortable, with even offering any level of opinions on this. A free diver, of course, is experiencing a combination of hypoxia and hypercapnia when they're holding their breath for a long period of time. There's some research that shows that when you get to a certain level of hypoxia and hypercapnia, maladaptations. But at low levels of hypoxia, like intermittent hypoxic training and even light levels of breath hold, we see positive adaptations in the body. We see this now, decades of research showing positive adaptations with intermittent hypoxic training, increased, improvements in insulin sensitivity, improvements in even areas of chronic disease and heart because of that ischemic conditioning, in the heart and in the brain. And so I find it so fascinating looking at, okay, light levels of hypoxic training, light levels of hypercapnia can be highly beneficial for the body, like increasing your carbon dioxide threshold for patients who have anxiety and things like that. But at extreme high doses and maybe with too much frequency could be maladaptive for the body. And I think that's where this area is so interesting, because there's, where is the line between, in your opinion, and I know even though there is research to support both, it's, it can be challenging to delineate, that line between positive adaptation and maladaptation. With hypoxia and hypercapnia, in terms of freedivers, but also in terms of anyone who's performing breathwork, even on dry land. And breathwork is a really hot topic right now. It's becoming, with the Wim Hof method and, the oxygen advantage and, all of these methodologies that, now there's apps and people are doing it at home. And, even with my, my online training that I do like, long exhalations and very light, short breath holds, nothing like a freediver would do. But, I just think it's interesting that there are, massive benefits, but also, people need to know that measurements need to be taken, and also certain precautions need to be taken, of course, when, doing, anything extreme or aggressive or doing, several minutes of breath holding.
Yeah. Well, there's a fine line between training hard in freediving and having fun, and training hard in freediving and being miserable. Because when you're let's say you're training at, just to throw a number, 75% of your max of your personal best, you're pushing your limits to a degree while you're straining your body on hypercapnia and CO2, lactic acidosis. And then it could be fun, but then if you do each training at 90%, 95% of your personal best, or 100%, or you're trying to pass your personal best each time, chasing the number, then mentally it's draining. You could be overtraining, and that's not natural. Just common sense wise, it's not natural. And beyond that, if you're doing that and you're getting incidents in freediving such as respiratory barotrauma or loss of consciousness, then that's definitely not natural. That's not. It's just common sense tells you human body is not made to do that. Yeah. So training at the normal pace, 75% of your max or 50% for fun, I feel like that has so many mental and physical benefits. think that's a safe answer, I guess.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's, you know, I've been personal training clients for 2 decades now. And I always say to them, less is more. Where's your minimum effective dose for the positive adaptations that you're going for? Now, if you're in a competition, of course, that's when you're pushing yourself to that limit. And, then, you want to train with specificity. And also, when you go for that dive, you want to, go a little farther, go a little deeper, go a little longer. But it doesn't mean that you need to do that, deeper, longer, and faster every single time you dive, or every single time I train a client, or every single time we perform breath work, because then the body doesn't have a chance to recover, and then we just, like you said, we do get ourselves into a place of overtraining syndrome. And that is no good for anyone. Have you ever experienced anything close to that?
Yes, and I definitely not consider myself elite by any means, but yes, of course, I mean, just being a surgeon, you are used to just running on fumes a lot, and at least a couple of times, I thought that I could do the same in freediving, being sleep deprived and running on fumes, and that's not good. That's totally different. I realized there that the training in freediving has to be more natural, mindful, healthy. You gotta sleep well, hydrate well, and mostly mental, honestly. It's just if you concentrate, and again, this is what I learned from athletes that you probably should interview or talk to sometime, that if you concentrate too much on the target, it's just not going to come. It's just not going to be there. It's not going to come to you, the target. But if you break down the performance on multiple little moments, each moment at a time, and almost trying to enjoy every single moment, then your dive will be a reality. So I don't know if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. I was a professional dancer before turned into the world of exercise science, before I went back to school for exercise science, and I remember I had a ballet teacher to say something very similar. He said, if you always focus on your fouette turns, which are the turns, if you've ever been to the ballet, where the ballerina's on point and she's fouetting her leg and it's going around and around and around, and most dancers will focus on the end product, and feel very nervous, like you get in your sympathetic nervous system because you're focusing on, am I going to pass or fail in that end, versus what is my foot doing? Is it drawn up the leg? What are the mechanics of, the intrinsic muscles of my foot as it goes up my leg, because it's all connected, and like the biomechanics and like really like the science. I mean, not everyone's interested in the biomechanics and like the physics behind it, but for the person that is, like, those are some of those mechanics that like you can break down, enjoy, like try to develop a deeper understanding with. And to me, that feels more, like more grounded in the parasympathetic nervous system, to like be able to enjoy and understand and, and break apart the components, to really develop a solid foundation, whether it be for freediving or for dancing or, Olympic diving or whatever it may be. So I think it's really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And what are your opinions on the potential beneficial doses of hypoxia that you experience as a freediver? Have you ever seen? Because I've studied intermittent hypoxia a lot, but I haven't read a lot of the research in the area of freediving and beneficial doses of hypoxia. I've seen the studies that look at beneficial, like cyclical apnea in freedivers, and also from looking at your study with the MRI imaging of the brain with static dryland apnea. Have you seen anything with hypoxic, intermittent hypoxia, or any of the benefits of hypoxia with freediving? I know freedivers generally go very low. I mean, lower than I would generally recommend for my clients who train in altitude chambers or do breath holding for hypoxia, because of the long breath holds.
I think yes. So I think at this time it's too early to really state that what is beneficial and what's not for me, and I don't know if I may come across very vague, but I'm very careful of what I state, because it's easy to let your mind go, right, and speculate, and it's safer to not to stop yourself from doing that. And yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what at what point that's beneficial or not. I do know that freediving, when it's practiced safely and you enjoy it, it has tremendous benefits mentally and physically. But I don't know exactly how to measure that, or where to stop or where to not.
Yes, no, it's no, I hear you. There's so, I mean, it's such, there's so much more research that can be done in the area. I think I'm personally very curious because, just because I've studied so intensely the value of altitude training, and especially on those with chronic disease, not even for elite. I mean, we know that it helps with elite athletes, because of the oxygen efficiency and, oxygen carrying capacity and that whole piece. But, I'm just really curious, and this is why I want to go more into research in this area. We're just starting a study at New York Institute of Technology in Long Island here, looking at two groups of women, one group performing the circuit training with no breath cueing, and the alternate group performing the same circuit training, exactly the same tempo. I mean, tempo is modulated. Everything is it's pretty well designed, and that group is getting the breath cueing. Inhale for 2, exhale for 8, sometimes a very short pause on the breath. And, all of them were tested to make sure they didn't have any cardiovascular dysfunction or anything like that. And we're measuring body composition, DEXA, basal metabolic rate, and strength assessment. And we're looking at 12 weeks of performing. So we're really excited because there isn't a lot of research in this area. So it's a pilot study, but I'm hoping that this pilot study will enable us to, for the next one, get a bigger grant, have a bigger pool of individuals, and so on and so forth. But I mean, I had to push really hard to get this first one. And so I'm just so excited that I got the grant to, because I know we talked on the phone a few months ago when I was just, just starting with this idea. So I'm really excited. This is the first.
Yeah. So question, are you guys measuring pulse oximetry on both groups?
Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah. The answer is yes. They're at the conclusion of each workout where, yes, there's pulse oximetry and also breath hold, and we're being really specific with the exhalation, and could they achieve the exact 8-second exhalation, and could they achieve the breath hold time. And so I can't wait to share the results, but also I can't wait to also then move on to future studies. We're hoping actually at New York Institute of Technology, we're hoping that an altitude chamber can go in there, so we can also do boxing training. But I think what I'm really interested in looking at how breathing can also be therapeutic, because while I think that hypoxic chambers and also going to mountains can be therapeutic for some individuals, but not all. For some, it can be too stressful. But it's not easily available for everyone. And so I think using something like freediving, where all you need are, your lungs and, some diving experience, and or just even performing controlled breathing where you're inhaling for 2 seconds and exhaling for 4 seconds, or whatever it may be, in conjunction with walking or jogging, and looking at, are there real differences in adaptations in the body between, group A, the control group, and group B, the experimental group, whatever the breathing protocol may be, because I think it would be interesting for those with chronic disease who may not be able to exercise in a traditional sense, to be able to just use a certain breathing tempo and frequency to be able to amplify their results. Maybe yes, maybe no. We might not find anything, I guess, well, that's the nature of.
No, but that's very interesting. I hope you can share the results with the community when you have them.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't think there's a question that breath work is beneficial. I mean, I feel like as the humankind has known that for centuries. I think who's this Thich Nhat Hanh said, you don't have to trust anything but your breath. Yeah. And you'll be at peace, right? So share the results with us when you have them.
Yeah, really, absolutely. Really yeah, no, I'm super excited. Really, really, really excited. Well, this has been so amazing. We've covered so many topics today. I'm so lucky, and we're so lucky that you shared your knowledge with us. You have so much wisdom in the area of the brain, breathwork, freediving. This has been so helpful, especially for someone who's starting off with freediving. So I'm so appreciative to you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. You know, immediately getting off work. Dr. Valdivia just got out of brain surgery, and he's here with us. I mean, how fortunate are we? This is incredible.
It's an honor for me to be here, and if I can put my grain of salt to the sport, I'll be very happy. And thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Valdivia, and for all the Hypoxonauts in the audience and all the listeners. We'll see you at the next one. Maybe sometime we'll get Dr. Juan Valdivia on here for a quick 10-minute training session. I'll train you in my breathing protocol if you ever have time.
Yes, I'll be delighted.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Wani. I'll see you at the next one. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.